So, got a nice link down there in the description for you guys. Only got one of you on right now, so we're just going to give it a few seconds here to get a few people in here to start talking about some of the more current things that are taking place inside of the lumber industry. I got a little bit of a lumber update for you guys just to kind of clue you in. So, it's pretty interesting to still hear people talk about what they think caused the lumber prices to go up as high as they did. And, for those of us who've been, following this channel anyway, you know exactly why the lumber prices ran up to 1,700 per thousand. Hey there, what is it? Literal de pony? What is that? I'm sorry. Anyhow, we know, like, starting back in 2018, that the British Columbia area, these guys are high cost, high output producers. So the amount of cost that goes into producing lumber in the British Columbia area is just about as high as it could be anywhere. So it's like very expensive up there. They also put out a lot of lumber out of that particular region. And in 2018, they were pumping out an insane amount of lumber coming out of the British Columbia area. And it was due to a bug infestation that had taken place. Now, this bug infestation, it was called the Blue Mountain Beetle. And this Blue Mountain Beetle had killed off a lot of trees up there. And the way they went into dealing with it is that they could just let the trees rot, or they could cut them down and mill them up and make some money off of it. So that's what they chose to do. And so what they did is they lowered the stumpage fee. And the stumpage fee is pretty much what the loggers have to pay the government in order to cut the tree, which ends up equating into the input costs going into the British Columbia mills. So they had lowered the stumpage fee, which caused a lot of logs to now be available for these mills, and they milled up a lot of lumber and pumped that into the United States. That was in 2018. But then the salvage came to an end, the salvage mode. And the price of the lumber, or the price of the stumpage fee, went up. So these mills, when that happened, really did not have the position in which that they could make a lot of money when the lumber futures fell down to around 400 per thousand. And now you got to think, this was all through 2018 going into 2019. And you can just go back onto my channel and take a look at some of the videos that I was putting out during that time. I was putting out videos just about every week talking about mill curtailments, mill shutdowns, inventory depletions. There was a huge impact that was taking place to the lumber industry long before COVID kicked in. So this inventory depletion that had taken place, it was really kicked into gear, like even more inventory depletion when COVID kicked in and you had all the lockdowns. During that time, people were given a stimulus check and they zapped out the rest of the inventory that was left on the market, and the prices shot through the roof. Now, a lot of people just want to focus in on that stimulus check that caused the price of inflation, or the inflation scenario that took place into lumber, causing the prices to go up. But we knew long before that happened that it was going to take place. Now, I didn't know it was going to go up to 1,700, but I did know that we were going to run out of lumber, or at least we were going to run into short supply, because we were talking about it. I mean, I even did a video at the end of 2019 talking about the hundreds of billions of square feet of OSB that was going to get pulled off the market. So when you see articles like the one I'm leaving down in the description where it says lumber was flashing the warning of inflation, that is not right. That is completely inaccurate. And that tells me that whoever is saying that really doesn't understand what was taking place within the lumber industry prior to the pandemic, because it was obvious we were going to have a shortage of lumber. Now, granted, all the other things that they talk about in there are factual stuff. I mean, we did have the boom in housing and people were buying, a lot of lumber to build decks and fences and renovate their house and stuff. But the real reason why we had the shortage was all that stuff that I had talked about during 2019 leading up to that event. So to say that it was the money printer go burr that caused the prices to go up in lumber is completely inaccurate. And you have to think about it. Now we have lumber at $650 per thousand or so, which is like the price of lumber on the futures back in 2018. So here we are. Where did all the inflation go that was in lumber? It wasn't lumber not in a money printer inflation scenario. It was in a severe supply chain breakdown and inventory shortage. That was the real reason. So here we are again, sitting at lumber really cheap, well, at least on the futures, it's starting to find its way into the retail market. Personally, at my yard that I work at, we had half-inch CDX, which is the typical plywood that you would use for sheathing on a house. We had that at $56 a sheet. It's down at around $39 a sheet. I'm getting reports from people all over the country saying it's much cheaper than that, than what they were talking, as far as their area. And OSB is starting to become much more available, and it's also, I'm getting reports down around $20 a sheet from many people. I'm still not experiencing the OSB, which is the cheaper alternative to the CDX. I'm not experiencing that OSB market as far as cheap down to $20 a sheet. It's still expensive, and we're selling CDX because it is cheaper for us to stock that than it is OSB right now. But that time is probably changing and going to be changing here fairly quickly. But anyway, to kind of give you an idea, lumber, when it peaked out at $1,700 per thousand, we had 2x4s at around $13.50 a piece. Right now, I'm selling 2x4s at $6.99 a piece. Half-inch CDX, when it peaked out at $80 a sheet, it's now at $39 a sheet and some change. It typically would sell for around $20 a sheet, anywhere from $20 to $25. 2x4s would typically be around, well, I would say around $3. Some people would get it a lot cheaper than that. $4, $4.29 was what we were selling them for back in 2018. So when you're at like $6.99, that's what we have them for today. We're getting closer, and if the lumber futures continue to stay down into the 600 mark, then we're going to see, the lumber retail prices continue to go down, and that's going to be pretty exciting for a lot of people who've been wanting to build projects or do their projects, and they've been, waiting for this time. It's coming, and it's interesting that in that article, they talk about summertime being the slow time, or usually like prices are down during the summer because they build houses during the winter. I don't know where that dude's from, but maybe like in the southern part of the United States they do that. Here up in the Pacific Northwest, when it gets to dry weather, it's full on framing season, and that's what they do during the summertime, is they frame houses. During the winter, hopefully you have that thing dried in, so then you can move into the house and start doing the finish work on the inside. So I don't know where this guy must get that information that they don't build houses during the summer. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Anyhow, let me look at that super chat real quick. Thank you for that. R. Sean Griffin, thank you very much for the $20. Thank you for all you do. Here is some Sunday ice cream. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I took the kids out and we got some Dairy Queen the other day, and we also got some sushi because somebody said that they wanted me to go out and get sushi with the super chat. So that's what we did. And it was good. So I thank you guys for that. The kids love it. Especially, when I tell them, this is the fans who are doing this, and they really appreciate it. I mean, I never used to take them out until just recently. I just really couldn't afford it. And so you guys, with the super chats and stuff, you make it a lot of fun to do this, and then, the kids really appreciate it too. All right. So a lot of you know that I get a lumber update once a week. I get this emailed to me. It's not something that I can share with you. So as far as like, I don't have a link that I can send you guys to look at the same stuff, but I can certainly give you an idea of what's being talked about, especially when it comes to the mills and things that are happening across the nation. Okay, so OSB prices continue to climb this week as mills continue to move order files out. Some mills are well into August already and still reporting good activity. So it sounds like, when I hear that one, that there is a bottoming in the sheathing of OSB. And that would make a lot of sense to me, that, the prices would start moving up, considering that I'm getting reports of from people saying that they're buying it under $20 a sheet. That is incredibly good, considering the environment that we just came out of. So it sounds to me like the lumber, or the OSB price, as far as that cheaper price that people are getting, that might be the bottom for right now, and that would make a lot of sense considering the season that we're in. All right, let's see here. Fir plywood. Fir plywood finally showed some life this week. All products within our industry have a solid pre-4th of July week. Orders started floating to the surface on Monday and continued through today. There doesn't seem to be much inventory build, just more covering of short needs. So although that there is some activity taking place in the fir plywood, it doesn't sound like the buyers are really like gung-ho, like let's load up the yard and you know, be ready for a bunch of sales. It sounds more like they're like, okay, well, let's just kind of pull what we need for right now and we'll see what happens. Now, this is kind of interesting. The Southern Yellow Plywood. Southern plywood activity was spotty this week. With OSB at such a discount to plywood right now, many mills are willing to listen to counters. So that's really telling me that the Southern Yellow Pine plywood is competing with that OSB, and the OSB is doing a much better job of having a better price, I guess I should say. I don't know about better job because it's an inferior product, so it should sell for cheaper. But that OSB market, that's the one that we have really been watching, because once that becomes more prevalent, then you're going to start finding the building of, or the framing of homes being cheaper as well. OSB being like a major component inside of that. All right, let's see here. What else did I see? Let's see here. The Western SPF. Producers maintain a modest upward push in the Western spruce prices, moving order files into mid to late July, depending on the item. Mills are still struggling with logistics, which we see scheduled downtime coming in July. Right? So this is something that we actually had Madison Lumber talking about, mill curtailments. And if you haven't checked out Madison Lumber, that is an excellent YouTube channel to go check out. She does really good lumber reports on there, and is doing a lumber mill curtailment report, which I believe that you have to pay for. I haven't signed up for it yet, but I plan on doing that because I think her work is excellent that she does, and it's going to be good information, especially for the industry that we're in here, if you're supplying or buying, you know, one of the two. 264 of you guys, thank you very much for coming into the chat, or into the live stream, and, you know, commenting as much as you can. But if you could please hit the like button. That's going to start sending the video out there. The algorithm will pick it up and start pushing it out there for more people to join in. So I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button on there. All right, Eastern SPF. In SPF, if you're not familiar with that, that stands for spruce, pine, fir, so it's like the mixture. Mills were steady this week, but buyers continued to take cautious buying approach, right? Just kind of like the rest of it, you know, just kind of buying what they need. Prices moved up throughout the week as mills offering became limited, and the order files moved out into the week of August. The market will start to see impact of summer mill curtailments, keeping prices firm and to up to over 3 to 4 weeks. So they're basically saying that, you know, you should probably keep, you know, your supply for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And if you want to get a good deal, now's the time to probably do it before these mill curtailments kick in. Let's see here. The pine market continues. This is talking about southern pine in all zones. The pine market continues to gain strength on all fronts. Activity picked up on the wides, as well as moving those into the green in most cases. Overall, there is a minimal downside risk at these levels. So again, you know, for those of you who are excited about getting a better deal on lumber, it sounds like now's your time. And let's see here. Let's see here. I messed that up. Overall, there is a minimal downside risk at these levels, and the market is steadily moving up on the number one Southern Yellow Pine. Is the tightest grade right now, so if you have need, we suggest you take a look at them now. All right, Western species dry dimension. We have this week a steady week overall in terms of sales. The first half of the week brought a lot of shopping, while the back half saw more follow through. The market trend is flat. Let's see here. Studs are most active. 2x4, 2x12 random loads also saw good activity. So it sounds like to me like they're gearing up for the framing. Generally, you get the studs and 2x6s, like 2x4s, 2x6s. Those are your walls, and then the 2x12 generally are joist or, you know, roof rafters or something like that. So it sounds to me like the western side of things is starting to pick up too, as far as getting ready for a building. You know, I don't necessarily say a building boom, but like for the building to pick up during the summertime. Green lumber again mirrored Western species. Large discounts were the norm. So it sounds like green lumber is still taking some hits to the prices. Overall, the main thing I hear as far as the problem with the mills is that logistical problem and keeping the flow of material from the mills in a steady fashion. That is still an issue. It's like a logistical nightmare right now, trying to keep the keep the flow of material going away from these mills. And from what I understand, they are still getting backed up at times, and that is one of the reasons why you're starting to see mill curtailments. Now, also, there is summertime downturn in mills. Like a lot of times they will curtail development for a short time to, do maintenance or upkeeps and stuff like that. And that does happen a few times a year. And a lot of times that does happen during the summer as well. So it's not unusual to have mill curtailments in the summer. It's just unusual to have it for any length of time. That's really where we're going to start seeing, like, why I want to watch the Madison Lumber Report, to see how much of those mill curtailments are actually going to be lengthy as opposed to just kind of a scheduled short-term shutdown. All right, so what are you guys talking about? Wow, it's out here for 15 minutes already. My goodness. Okay. All right. I rented single man gas auger, but the rocks here in Massachusetts were no match for it. Ended up doing 90% of the digging, bar and shovel. Ugh, gosh, that's a tough one. Copper and steel prices crash, are flashing recession ahead. Cement and lumber prices drop, confirms recession. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily watch definitely watch the lumber. It's an indicator of like the building industry and what's going on there as far as demand for building. But right now we're still going from the oversupply, undersupply. We have logistical nightmares. That's probably going to be a big issue, and it's not necessarily telling of a recession. Now, if you combine it all and use lumber in conjunction with the rest of that stuff, yeah, okay, I can see lumber being like one of the indicators too. But right now, I see so many other things that are causing lumber prices to be the way they are, or, what it is not necessarily due to inflationary pressures and stuff like that. All right, let's see here. Let me get down to the bottom. You're going to pay too much, Daniel. Oops. Okay, I don't know what Daniel said, but let's see here. Daniel, I'm about to buy my first house. And then the guy says, you're going to pay too much for it. Well, I have to question it. I was watching Jason Hartman's presentation over at the Rebel Capitalist, and he pretty much, if his information is accurate, right now you could triple the amount of inventory and still have historically low inventory levels of homes. So yeah, there's a lot of homes coming onto the market, but there's a lot of demand for homes as well. And so whether or not we can actually get the inventory levels up to a point that prices would actually come down significantly, I still question that, especially after watching Jason's presentation and just some of the things that I'm experiencing here locally. My own personal house that I purchased back in November has gone up like insane amounts. So even if it was to drop dramatically, I don't know if it would drop below the price that I had paid for it. It would have to drop like a good better than 10%. It would have to drop close to 15% before it would hit the price that I had taken the loan out for. And then actually, it would have to go more than that because I put a lot of money down on the house. So it would actually have to drop like 25% in order for me to go underwater on that house. Are the chances of homes coming down? Sure. You add a bunch of inventory to the mix, and you're going to have house prices come down. Home prices come down dramatically if you do a lot. But right now, I just don't see where the inventory levels are going to jump dramatically. That would be the question, My house is paid for losers. Oh, well, I wouldn't call anybody losers, man. It sucks for people who are buying a house because I got a long way to go to pay mine off. All right, we are not going to see 2008 housing market crash. Corporations buy homes for Airbnb and rentals, and they have almost unlimited capital and can sit on assets for years. Yeah, and just to kind of give you an idea that I was talking with Matthew, the lumberjack landlord, and really at some point, I don't know if I'm going to do it, this year or next year or whatever, but at some point I'm going to get into real estate too. And I'm buying houses for rentals. That's like the way you kind of leave wealth for your kids and family and stuff like that. So, I'm not like too eager to do it today, but it is something that I have in mind to do into the future. So, right on. Hey, Lord Humongous, thank you for being here. Be careful on who you delete. I'm just kidding, bro. I know you'll do right. Inventory is already being flooded on the market. Yeah, we'll find out. Housing is already crashing. No stopping it now. Well, I don't know about that. Like I said, my house is still incredibly high, and even if it was to crash 20%, it's still, I wouldn't be underwater. So I don't know like how many people are going to be sitting underwater on their homes if it goes down 10-20%. I mean, I still have to question all that. My mortgage is only 2%. Have no intention on paying it off early, not at this interest rate. Yeah. Um, that's kind of one of the things that I thought of too. I've made a couple of extra payments on my house. I'm surprised that I was able to actually do that, but I didn't put it towards principal like I should. I actually pushed it out to have months ahead paid, so that if I ever come into a situation where I need like emergency funds or something like that, I will have already had those months paid for. At some point when I get out there a little ways and have that done, then I'll start making the principal payments on the house. But yeah, I mean, I kind of figured I've lived broke my whole life, so I don't really mind not having a whole lot of money. Like, it doesn't bother me to not have money. It's just like, it's not a big deal. I mean, like I said, I've lived broke my whole life, so I might as well do something with it. All right. Are you buying gold and silver? Not yet, but I'm going to. And one of the things that we had talked about here just a couple of days ago was the idea of me taking sponsorship here on the channel, basically getting paid to do a commercial, and I still, I'm still torn on this idea. Like, I don't want to have this feeling that I'm selling out or something like that, or have you guys think that I'm selling out. So, but they did give me an offer, and I'm not going to say who the company is just yet. I'm going to do a little bit more investigation into it. It's probably something that I'm going to do. I feel that if I'm willing to invest within that company, then I will let you guys know that. And I don't know. We'll still see if I do the sponsorship. I mean, I'm going to debate it here over the weekend, debate it with myself, I guess, and figure it out. All right, let's see here. I just recently started buying ETF land. It's farmland. Seems like solid bet long term. Yeah. I don't know about long term, but definitely over the next couple of years, I think that's going to do really well, especially if food prices go way up. Then those farms ought to do pretty well, and the farmland ETF, I would imagine, would do pretty well in itself. Take the sponsorship, take the money. Yeah, thank you, Justin. I'm really considering it. Getting sponsored by the Federal Reserve? I don't think so. I don't think I'll do any deals with the Federal Reserve ever. I mean, I'm already too much exposed to them with Federal Reserve notes. All right, Uneducated Economist, what do you think if real estate and car market short-term, mid-term? Interesting story. A friend of mine, I think car prices are going to start coming down. A friend of mine was telling me that their mom went down at the local car dealership here and was looking at a Camaro down there, and that's what kind of sparked me up. I'm like, oh yeah, how much you pay? What's going on? And they're like, well, she looked at it, but she thought the price was too high, so she just drove away. Well, they called her up and offered her a much better deal on the car after she just basically said, never mind, I don't want this thing. I don't know exactly what she paid, but from what I understand, she was just like, okay, I'll do it. That's a really good price. So it sounds to me like, some of these car dealers might be looking for sales, especially if you consider that, interest rates are rising and people are less keen to take out loans when the interest rates are up. We might find where used car prices could start coming down, or car prices in general. I'm not calling that quite yet, but it seems to me that it could start happening. I also looked at some of our local dealerships, and it seems there's more cars on the lot, although they're still pretty empty. But it looked like there was more cars on the lot than there was, 6 months ago. So as far as that goes, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the car prices probably, especially used cars, might be finding their way down. Home prices, real estate in general, I'm still a little bit torn on that one. I could see if the inventory start to rise, then you would start seeing the home prices coming down. But I'm not seeing them rising significantly. And like I said, after watching Jason's presentation, I was just like, okay, well, that's definitely the thing that I'm going to keep an eye on, is these inventory levels. All right, on downward. Lord, what do you have to say? Lord Humongous. Austin, Denver, Boise, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Southern California, Silicon Valley, Seattle, housing markets on fire and turn into crap, I guess. Oh, Lord humongous, you have such a negative outlook on the real estate. All right, Simon, if you haven't already listen to The Richest Man in Babylon. I highly recommend it. My friend, you can the audiobook free on YouTube. Yeah, I like that story. I've listened to it a few times, like halfway into it, but I haven't quite finished it. That's one that's been recommended to me many times, and I had the book at one time and I was reading it, but I'm a terrible reader, at least sticking with the book. So maybe I'll take the opportunity the next time I mow the lawn, I will put that audiobook on and I'll listen to it. What percentage of inflation is from printing and what percentage is supply chain breakdown? What happens if the Fed raises at the same time supply chain opens up? Well, I see, that was the one thing that I had been saying quite a while ago, is that, once the mandates came to an end and once the restrictions and all that limitations and all that stuff started to fade away or just faded away, that we would see the prices start to come back down, that we would see things becoming more prevalent and available. We wouldn't have like panic buying or shortages all over the place. And the Federal Reserve said it like months ago that they were looking for help from the supply side of things. And even that paper they put out just recently said that, it was a supply chain breakdown more than it was the red hot demand that everybody was calling it. So I can't nail a percentage. You can't say like this is it, because every single item was different. I mean, I look at 15-pound felt. I was selling it for $32 a roll. Like, if you're not familiar with 15-pound felt, it's a building paper. It's a vapor barrier. So typically they use all kinds of other stuff now, like they use a lot of synthetic house wraps. But there was a time when 15-pound felt was the most common building paper you would have out there. So once you framed your house, you would put a vapor barrier up. That was the 15-pound felt. You would tack that against the wall, and then you would start putting siding up. Well, this 15-pound felt, I can imagine that there's not a lot of input cost going into this stuff, right? There is a little bit of oil product because it's an asphalt impregnated felt paper. But there's really, like, you think it's probably mostly automation that's going into the production of it. I sold it for $32 a roll prior to the pandemic. I think I sell it now for $34, $35 a roll. So, like, people don't even notice the difference in 15-pound felt. And I tell you, I could probably, like, lumberyards don't do this, but I could probably tell people, oh yeah, it used to be $32 a roll, it's 45 now, and they would pay it because they're like, oh yeah, that's inflation, and they would just expect it. But you don't do that. Like, lumber yards keep tight margins on almost everything because you have to stay in competition. But that's one of the things that I track. I mean, people are like, inflation into everything. And I'm like, not really. I mean, I think that one's probably more about transportation costs than it is actual input cost or money printer go burr that caused that price to go up. But, I mean, how do you prove that? All right. Hey, thank you very much, Steve, for the $5. Fernco story from a mobile home dealer. They were 18 months out in February. Now they're less than 6. Lots of over ordering to secure a quick delivery. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you saw such red hot demand, or this overwhelming consumer demand, was because of that, because of panic buying and this allocation. Like, for example, I mean, if you can't imagine that, I mean, we would try to order stuff like trim, like, some exterior trim, and we would order like 100 pieces. And the supplier would say, well, you're only going to get like a partial of your order because we have to make sure that everybody gets some. So instead of getting 100 feet, you're only going to get like 30 feet. So we're like, oh, well, we don't need 100 feet. We need like 300 feet, you see? And so if this starts happening with all the different lumber yards out there because they feel that they're being allocated against, well, then they're going to start increasing their orders so that they can get what they need in order to make their sales and do their projects. And that shows this overwhelming consumer demand for this stuff that simply doesn't exist. It's not there. And once the supply chain opened up, I think a lot of people realized that's exactly what happened. And that's why we're seeing so many people talking about the bullwhip effect. And I've been talking about that for almost 2 years now. All right. Which company produced the mobile first would deliver and all the other orders would get canceled? Yeah, I found that happening too, that a lot of people would would complain about that. Like the big guys would get their hands on it first, where all the little guys would just basically be sitting empty for, for months, while everybody else was getting theirs in a almost timely fashion. Or not everybody else, but all the big guys, because they're the important ones, I guess. I don't know. I'll be in Seaside in Astoria next month. I'll buy you a beer, man. Well, I tell you what, I'll go down and sit and have a beer. Well, I'll sit down with you while you have a beer, but I'll drink coffee or something like that, because I haven't drank in like 6 years. But I would love to hang out. Anybody who's in the Astoria area tomorrow, why don't you come and play bingo over at the Workers Tavern? I'll be calling bingo there tomorrow night. All right, Paul, thank you very much for the $10. Enjoy your insight. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the $10. That's very nice of you. $115 to $130 per yard last year price. What was that for concrete? That's expensive. I haven't drank in 32 years. Yeah. That's good for you, man. I mean, that's a long time. Yeah, watch John Titus. He'll explain what $9 trillion does to the economy. Okay. Doesn't matter underwater or not if you can't afford a payment. That is very true. And now I have to think about it. Like, I look at the ZELLE estimate of my house right now and what the estimated payment would be. And I don't know if I would be able to get that house today. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't, because I was already at the limit when I bought the house. So, yeah, I don't know if I could actually afford the house today if I was to go and try and buy it. Not at the price that the ZELLE estimate's at, with the interest rates they are today. ZELLE is BlackRock, Harvard. Lord, do you have anything good to say? I'm not working poor. I can afford a house payment. Lots of laughs. Good for you. With all this insanity, I just sit back and meditate, chant Hare Krishna, and stack and prep off the grid. Come on with it. World War III. Yeah, I don't know if I'm really looking forward to World War III. Yes, and the Fed. That's good. Yes, okay. Well, there's something I can agree with you on, Lord. I totally agree with you on that one. All right. Nobody can really tell you what 9 trillion will do, not even Zaza Gabor. Well, yeah, I mean, I have to wonder how much of that is sitting as bank reserves on the big banks' balance sheets and not being lent into the economy. Because really, you have to think about it. All that quantitative easing, except for the stimulus that went out there, which was quite a bit. And I know everybody's going to be like rolling their eyes about that part. But that's like unproductive debt, right? So that doesn't do anything for the economy. It just gives you a shot in the arm. It's like getting high for the afternoon, and then all that money is due back plus interest, which is actually going to slow down the economy. And it gets me thinking a lot about like what Dr. Lacey Hunt says about the return on capital investment. When you have low interest rates at, down near around zero, the return on capital investment actually goes negative, and that's a burden on the economy, and over time will actually be deflationary as less money is spent into the economy from the return on that capital. Especially if it goes negative, then it's like deflationary. I mean, that's like a deflationary thing that could happen. The only thing that prevents that is continuous money printing and pumping. So if the money printer churn off, then there's like no return on capital investment when you have, interest rates as low as they are. All right, I went all in on 3 index funds. One is the S&P 500, 2 is a real estate investment trust, and 3 is the International Growth Index Fund. The world have always worked itself out of the bigger messes than the one we are in now. Well, not everybody digs their way out. I mean, sometimes it does crash to the point that it doesn't return for some people, but I don't feel that that's necessarily going to be the case this time. And I'm waiting for, when I'm going to invest back into the stock market at some point. But I'm waiting for the Federal Reserve to say that they're data dependent. When they say they're data dependent, when they are lifting interest rates, that's going to be the point that I start moving back in, because I feel that they're probably going to be capping out on their interest rates hiking scenario. And I don't know like how long after that or how long it takes to get to that point, but once I hear data dependent, then I'll be diving back into into the stock market, because I feel that that's probably the point where everybody else is going to be comfortable, like feeling that that's the bottom or whatever. But that's me. I don't know. You should watch Interview with Jimmy Valley and who's that? Linquinto? YouTube if you want to understand XRP. Okay. I will check it out because, to be honest with you, I'm still not convinced on XRP, so I'll take some information on it. Mr. UE, I think you are correct about the supply chain causing inflation and bullwhip effect. Would like to hear your thoughts on why all money printing is not causing inflation. Thank you. Well, again, it's not necessarily the money printer is not causing inflation, okay? Obviously, you have to have more money in the system in order for there to be inflation. When I say that the inflation was due more to a supply chain breakdown than the monetary policy, it doesn't mean that I'm saying that there is no inflation caused by the money printer, okay? I didn't say that. I've never said that. I said it was more about a supply chain breakdown. When you have this inflation expectation, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So here the Federal Reserve says, oh, look at the money printer go brrr, right? And then here's a bunch of stimulus. Yeah, that causes inflation. And then you got mass media going out there, inflation, inflation, inflation. People start behaving in a way that starts causing the inflation to happen. And go and look at all the Federal Reserve speeches. None of them talk about inflation. They all talk about inflation expectation and rising the inflation expectation, because they know that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when you print up a bunch of money and you stick it in the big banks and you say, here, hold on to this stuff and lend it out if you can, and that stuff doesn't really enter into the system except for the stimulus, which is due back, plus interest, right? Where's the inflation going to come from? It comes from the inflation expectation that's out there, and that's really what's causing it. At least in my opinion, right? I mean, you know. All right, don't trust ZELLE. Okay, I don't. It's not money. All right, has anyone here looked into Algorand? Does it have a chance to be our central bank digital currency? Let's talk about lumber. Let's talk about supply chains. Very good, thank you. Yep. QE is digital money for financial markets. Yep. Okay, yes, credit expansion creates inflation as well as non-money. Okay. Yes, I have. A quick little burn out to finish up. Okay. To make another $10 donation if someone else does. I'll make another $10 donation if somebody else does. Well, thank you, Paul, man. That's very generous of you. I thank you guys. Inflation can be caused by various things. Absolutely it can. Digital money is valueless joke. Yeah, it's not valueless though, right? I mean, if you can transfer, okay. I know a lot of people say it ain't wealth, it ain't any, okay. But if you can make a transaction with somebody on the other end of the world, right? And there's nobody who can stop you from doing that, that has value, man. There's value inside of that. There's no way you can deny that. Now, granted, the price that you'll be able to trade your crypto, or the trading ability of crypto in the future might be questionable, but to think that you can do that type of transaction, that has value to it, and I wouldn't deny that one. Now, again, having real money, having a real money in your hand, something that is outside of the third party, something that is outside of a digital concept, that's the real deal. That silver and gold is the real thing, right? Owning land, as long as you can trust the property rights that you live at, that's a real deal, right? When you are holding Federal Reserve notes, that's not real. That isn't even remotely close to real. When you hold crypto, again, that's not necessarily real, right? It does have value to it, just like a Federal Reserve note does. And what is everybody pricing out their gold and silver and cryptos and houses and everything else in? Dollars, right? Because in the end, everybody wants dollars. And why? Because that's what they use to pay their debts. So long as people are taking out debts in dollars, then there will always be a demand for dollars. And whether or not you think it's going to go to, into hyperinflation, which could be a possibility, but unless you think that, then holding on to dollars is not a bad deal, especially if you're going into a recession, because when a recession happens, that's what you have to have is dollars. That's when everything goes on sale. So try and cash out of your failing asset to buy another failing asset. That doesn't work. You have to cash out ahead of time and have the cash on hand. So cash is not trash, not even close. All right. Van, worldwide seems like there are so many issues with inflation. What are the risks of large-scale social unrest? Sri Lanka, Guyana, Turkey, Argentina, Eastern Europe, all double digits, 20% inflation. Okay. Um, I think, I honestly feel that inflation is probably a bigger issue if you do not have the world reserve currency. Right? I think that's the bigger deal. Right now, the dollar index is higher than it's been in 20 years. And that means that you're going to be able to buy a lot of stuff from foreign nations. That is what really is telling me. Like when they go into a hyperinflation or they go into a massive inflation scenario, that is not comparing it to the United States. You can't say, well, it's happening in that country. Look at, why wouldn't it happen in the United States? Because those countries don't have a world reserve currency. The rest of the world demands dollars. And I think I have to question if the United States or the Federal Reserve could even print up enough dollars to pay off all the debts that are due in dollars out there. I mean, if everybody wanted to get out of the dollar immediately, like they were like, I've got to get out of the dollar. I cannot have any exposure to the dollar, including my debts. And I owe $100,000 in $100,000 on this debt. Well, then you have to get $100,000. That's a demand for dollars before you can get out of that thing. So even if people wanted to get out of the dollar, like everybody had the same belief that they wanted to be out of the dollar, it would cause the dollar to bubble like you wouldn't believe. It would go through the roof, because there's just simply not enough dollars to pay off all those debts. All right, on. Hey, thank you guys, man. I'm getting a bunch of. Well, I must have missed some up here. Let me see. Let's see, Paul. No, I got that one. Let me get down here a little ways. There's some super chats I'm looking for here, guys. Give me a second. All right. There we go. $20 from Daniel. Thank you very much. Match $20. Thank you, Daniel. That's very kind of you, man. DB Coop. Thank you very much. $10. You're up, Paul. Well, thank you guys. You guys are so awesome. Paul hit the bonus round, $20. Thank you guys so much. Do you have any questions? I mean, all right. UE, you are doing a wonderful job. Please ignore the negative comments. I can't just ignore the negative comments. I mean, even if people are joking, there's a lot of truth that's said in jest. And just because they disagree and they might be like irritated in their disagreements, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. Like, I mean, we're all trying to figure this thing out. Anytime there's somebody who has some sort of input that is like helpful, even if it's a negative comment, there still could be a piece of golden information inside of that. And to just simply ignore it is not necessarily helpful. What I need to do is become a little bit more emotional intelligent, when it comes to that thing, and dealing with some of the negative comments, just to kind of let those things go. I have a hard time doing that sometimes, especially when they're trying to poke fun at me or something, but I'm getting better at it. Wasn't the Holy Roman Empire's silver-based economy? Yeah, and are you talking about the defeat or the failure of Rome? Okay, so that really comes down to Cantillon, right? And the Cantillon effect. If you go and read that essay, Cantillon's essay, it really makes a lot of sense why you had the boom and bust cycles, the business cycles, why countries would rise and fall. It's almost inevitable if you do not have a trade balance. Like if you could trade equally with all the rest of the world, you export exactly how much you import, then you wouldn't have the bust. You wouldn't have the run up in money concentrated into a location and then dispersed out again. Because you have to think, back in the day, when it came to hard money, when it came to having silver, gold, and it was a cycle to it. Because once you like, how did you get this? I mean, even if, I guess if it was war, that would be a little different, but most of the time it was due to a trade imbalance, meaning that you might have been a nation that was producing a lot of exports. And when you start exporting a lot of that stuff, then you're importing a lot of money. Well, as you import that money, the people who have access to that money, they start buying more and more foreign imports to compete with the domestic manufacturers. Okay, because as this money pours in, it starts causing the prices of everything to go up, right? As all this new money is coming in, like the inflation scenario. But what ends up happening is that the people at the end of the line, they suffer the most with it because their wages haven't gone up, but all the items within the nation are getting more expensive. So what ends up happening is it starts shutting down the local manufacturing. At the people who have access to this money, they don't want to spend it on higher goods, right? They don't want to spend it on more, spend a higher price on those goods. So they start seeking out foreign imports to compete with the domestic manufacturing. As those foreign imports come in, the local manufacturers, they have to, they can't compete and end up going out of business, and with them takes the people with it. So really, this is like, if this continues, eventually it gets to a point where the nation is no longer exporting anything. They're only importing. And if you have no more money coming in, like if it isn't coming from like a silver mine or something like that, or war, right, where you go and conquer everybody and you take their stuff, if you were gaining that money through trade imbalances, eventually you just get to a point where you run out of money, and then everybody falls into poverty. And that's what was really like Cantillon was trying to explain in his essay. I don't know if I explained that all exactly right, but that's pretty much how it went down. All right. IMF may use an XRP-like protocol on banks one day. May use it, but I can't almost promise it not going to be with XRP. It will be their own chain. Yeah, and I'm not denying XRP. It's been around for a while. There's a lot of people who are convinced with it. I'm not denying that. I just personally haven't been convinced yet, And again, I don't really look that deep into it, not like I had in the past. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll take a look, and maybe I might change my mind on it. But as of right now, I just don't see it. I have never heard of a central banker that at least through the speeches that I read and the things that I look at, I've never heard them once ever mention XRP. So, hit the like button. Yes, please. There's 417 of you in the chat. Please hit that like button. It'll start spreading the video around. I really appreciate it. There isn't any going back. This is the new everything. Okay. Yeah, I agree. There's probably not going back to what would be considered a normal. I mean, whatever normal was. But nothing ever is normal. Like, we're not going back to the gold standard like people thought they were. The temporary removal of the gold standard, that was like such a joke. There was no way that they were going to be able to go back on a gold standard. It just wasn't going to happen. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen in the future. And I've thought of like ways that they could possibly like start entering gold back in by doing a treasury that, say, is redeemable in either dollars or gold at some point. And at that point, then you could kind of have a gold standard start and expand from there. But it doesn't happen. It's not happening. What was it? What was her name? Judy. She was going to run for, or she was going to be part of the Fed. Judy Shelton, was it? I can't remember, but she had that idea of having like a digital gold aspect entered into the U.S. Treasury. But again, I haven't seen any talk of that since then. She mentioned it years ago. Let's see here. See if you can buy silver locally. Sometimes it's cheaper. Yeah, definitely check out your local coin shop. I mean, here in Astoria, we have two places you can buy silver, at the pawn shop or at Clatsop Coin. And I generally go to Clatsop Coin because I know Scott down there, and he gives me good deals if I, occasionally, like not always, he does he give me good deals. Sometimes it's just what it is. It has to be. I mean, he has to make his money, and that's what the price of the silver is. But there's been plenty of times where he has given me a good deal on silver. Like, it'll come in and you'll be like, hey, I just got this odd piece or something like that nobody really, like some generic round or something, and he might sell it to me for, just slightly more than what he paid for it, as opposed to getting his normal premium. There was a time when you could buy silver for like a 35% over spot price. Those days are long, long gone. So the idea of getting like back to a 35-cent over spot price, I just don't see that ever happening. Not with so much attention to having silver and gold as part of your portfolio, and considering how cheap it is compared to everything else out there. It's just such a little downside risk to it. I just don't see where like the premiums are going to come down anytime soon. Although I hear they are coming down a little bit. Um, Silver nickels are cool. Yeah, silver nickels. A lot of people don't realize it, that it was like, what was it? It was 42, 43, 44, and 45. Silver, or the nickels from the currency, like, your typical nickel, like, in your change. Those years, they were made out of silver. Not all of the 42s. You have to look at the mint mark. And the mint mark on the, above the Monticello, the building on the back of the coin, the mint mark is really big. It's like obvious. It's like a big, big mint mark, and it's above the building. You can see it just like right there. So look through your old coins. If you have old nickels, look at them. I mean, some of them are from those years, are made of silver, and they're actually quite a bit. It's like, I haven't checked it lately, but there's almost like $1 worth of silver in it. So it's worth looking for. Yeah, they only made silver nickels 1 year. No, no, they didn't. They made it 42, 43, 44, and 45. I have them. I have a bunch of them at home. All right, Lord Humongous, nothing new, actually. I didn't catch his comment. Great content, Yui. Thank you very much. Well, I appreciate it. I like it when you guys are out here. There's 384 of you right now, 374. A bunch of you just left, but, you know, we're here. We're talking. All right. Hi, everyone. Correct, Simon. Thank you. War nickels are mostly silver. Yep. Oh, aren't they 35% silver? They're not mostly silver. Which cold storage hard wallet do you use for your Bitcoin? I don't. I have, and this is probably not the smartest way to hold Bitcoin, but I have Bitcoin in a few different locations. I use a Loaf wallet for Litecoin. I use Coinbase. I use Abra. I use I guess those are the three that I use right now. And I'm not exactly trusting like little devices to put, to put it on like a little piece of like a microchip, or one of the treasures or something like that. I don't put coins on that. I keep them at those locations, and it's not exactly the safest place to keep them. But if you can, write down your private keys to those things, and if you had like an actual wallet that you wrote the, secured your private keys, then it's pretty safe for the most part. I wrote down the private keys to an Ethereum wallet and then lost the keys. Like I didn't lose it all. I have the first like 50 digits of the 64-digit key, but I can't find the rest of them. I don't know what they are, and I have coins locked in that wallet that I do not have access to. And I tell you, it's a real bummer. I won't even go and check it to see how much they're worth, because I see last time I checked it, there was coins in there that I didn't even know about. Like I didn't put them there. I don't even know how they showed up there. So whether somebody had sent them to me or something, but anyway, I have this Ethereum wallet that I can't access. And so if you're going to get into cryptos, secure your private keys. I mean, if you don't know what that means, get $10 worth of coin or $50 worth of coin, and then secure the private key. Figure out what that means and learn to do it. Otherwise, don't get into crypto. Don't do it. Unless you plan on keeping it with a third party like Coinbase or something. All right. UE there from the Ethereum forks. Oh, yeah, okay. What a bummer. What a bummer, man. I guess maybe someday I can have, if it's worth enough, I can pay somebody to hack it, I guess, if they can get the last 15 digits. Get a treasure wallet. yeah, I'm still. I mean, I have one, but that was sent to me, and so I'm nervous about using ones that were sent to me because then somebody else could already have the access to that. So, anyway, 40% silver in the 1940s. Oh, it's 40% in those. Okay. I have a ton of war nickels. Love them. Yeah, that it's like it's really. I mean, it's kind of funny that people don't even know about that. Like a lot of people don't realize that there was silver nickels at one time, and it's kind of interesting to think it was during the wartime. Like you would think like they would try to hold on to money then, but they were using the nickel for armament, like for weaponry and stuff like that. So they needed the silver for the nickels, like to actually make a nickel for people to use. So I think that's a pretty interesting story in itself. Thank you very much, Mitho Nilsson, for the $2. Still holding XRP. I do have a little XRP. Yeah, I bought some a long time ago. But well, it's kind of funny because I had it with Coinbase, and although it's still there, I think it's locked with them now, isn't it? Like they say that you can't buy it or sell it with them. I don't know. I guess I could send it away from there, but yeah, it's Clint. Thank you very much for the $10. Sent you $25 more on Venmo. Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I would encourage anyone watching to give as much as possible. The amount of work you put into is admirable and appreciated. Well, thank you, man. I really do thank you for that because a lot of people call it work. And I guess if you find something that you love, you'll never work, right? And I do love doing this. I love researching. I love the ideas. I love talking, with you guys. I love everything about what the Uneducated Economist is and studying macroeconomics. And I mean, to me, it isn't work. It's like, I mean, it is work. I mean, you do have to put a lot of time into it and come out here and do this stuff, but it feels good to do it, and I appreciate it to tip me and show your appreciation. It means a lot to me, and I can't thank you guys enough for it. Holy moly. Boy, I got a lot. Oh man, TMC, thank you so much, man. $100? Really? Hello from hell. 105 degrees in Dallas, Nvidia, Shopify, Tesla, investments made my week. I do think we are past inflation peak. Well, man, I'm not going to deny that. I mean, I mean, you sent me $100. You must feel pretty confident in it. Thank you so much for the $100. I mean, I cannot, I can't believe it, man. That is awesome. Thank you. I really think you like it. I think you're talking about yeah, I do. All right. Thumbs up. Hey, appreciate that. UE, what's your view on private landlords? Risks? What do you mean by that? I'm not sure what that means. I am unrefined for barter. I leave them unrefined for barter. Oh, is that for like the nickels or something? Or the silver? I'm speaking of physical gold and silver coins. Let me go back down here. Send me $100. All right, Yui, did you ever check out the Worldly Philosopher? No. I will. I was going to write it down, but I realized I don't have a pen in here right now. There are so few coins in stamp collection shops and business now, it's hard to find one to give you a good price on your gold and silver coins. Yeah, that can be a little difficult. So it is important to build up a network of people that are like-minded when it comes to having gold and silver or stacking gold and silver. Like my buddy who was a silver stacker, I traded a bunch of silver for a car, and it was because I knew that he liked silver and that he bought silver. So knowing that and knowing that he had a car for sale, and when my car broke down, it was just like it was really easy. Now, had I not known that he was a silver stacker, I may not have even asked them to sell me a car because I couldn't afford one. But just knowing that and being in the community and being aware of other stackers out there, that's the type of thing that you're looking for. Because really, say you did find a car that was like, say you found a $1,500 car, but you don't have the cash for it, and it's a really good deal, and the guy doesn't take silver, but your buddy across town does, and you could go to him and say, hey man, you want to buy a bunch of silver at spot price, right? So that's a better deal than what you're going to get anywhere else. And you might find that he might be into that because, hell, it's better than paying a premium on it. So you could find people in the community. In fact, now with the premiums as high as it is, you should be able to find a lot more people who would be willing to buy silver from you at spot price. And if you can build that network up, well, then when things come into an emergency like that, like I had, you'll be able to unload that silver right away for something that you need, like a car. Just bought Cantion's essay, 10-ounce silver bar. I'm the uneducated economist. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoy it. It's free, the essay is. UE, do you think we'll see huge sales on things that are not essential? AKA not fuel and food, but cars, TVs, homes, etc. I think it's already happening. I mean, a lot of people are telling me, or I'm getting reports on it, that they're finding like some seriously good deals. And then also because, like, say adjusting the price isn't necessarily easy for a store to do, you can get like manufacturer rebates, and I hear rebates are really becoming a lot more popular. Now, just to kind of give you an idea, as an experience that I just recently had, I went down to my local, to one of my local stores here to get a carpet cleaner, right? I got an old dog now, right? And we left her in the house all day, so you know how it goes. So I needed a carpet cleaner, and I go down to the store, and they're like just stupid expensive, right? And I'm like, oh man, this thing is like, I don't know, it was like $400 or something. And I'm like, oh, but they have it like on an extreme sale. Well, that's, kind of typical. They have this high price, but really, everything's on sale. So it was like quite a bit off. I mean, it was like $130 or something off on this thing. And so I go up to pay for it, and I realize like I'm not a member of this store, right? So they don't give me the discount. And I just asked her, I'm just like, hey, I'm not a member. Can you just give me the discount anyway? She's like, yeah, absolutely. So she gives me the store, like, member discount for it. And then she says, hey, hold on. I got another coupon, and she went and scanned something else and got me another $30 off on this thing, right? So I ended up like this $400 price tag on this thing. I ended up getting it for like $220 or $230. I can't remember exactly, but I'm like, hey, right on. So that was like pretty good deal. I mean, and I bought that retail, at a retail store. All right. UE, for the locked Ethereum wallet, I would look into recovery companies that specialize in unlocking lost wallets. Usually no upfront cost, and they charge a percentage of the value of what they recover. Okay, well that's interesting. Because like I said, I have most of it. I have like the first 50 digits of it. So I mean, I think that if somebody knows how to break into wallets, then, I mean, is that really easy to do? I mean, I can't imagine people can break into wallets too easily. Recovering it, I don't know if I have a device in which that I had that wallet, like access to that wallet on. Like, I don't know if I still have that device. I had it on an iPhone a long time ago, but I don't know if I still have that iPhone. I think I got rid of it or threw it away or something. I don't know what I did with it. All right. Look into the ground fridge. Can make your own for those in hot climates. Yeah. How high will mortgage rates go this year? Let's hear some guesses. I don't know, man. I have a hard time believing that many people will be taking out mortgages much beyond like the 6 or 7% interest. Like I mean, the only way they would is if home prices drop dramatically. Like if you had inventory levels shoot up like insanely and brought homes down, like, I mean, taking your $400,000 home down to, 280 or something like that, then I could see where interest rates could go much higher, and because people would be able to make the payments. But I don't know if that's really going to happen. I couldn't tell you where. I couldn't guess. I mean, I would assume that somewhere between 6 and 7 is going to be like where they're going to be at. I'm going to play with my silver like Scrooge McDuck now. Have fun all. Yeah, I like doing that every once in a while. I'll take the silver and kind of clink it all together, or take, like, what I really like to do is take like silver dimes and shake them like that. All right. Yui, what do you think about auto loans and repos coming up? Yeah, I haven't seen like a big, like, at least in my area. I kind of look like, you get these reports, but I don't necessarily trust like the mainstream media. I mean, just look at the article down in the description of this video, and you know that like they don't have a good grasp of the lumber industry. Like they don't get it right. So it's hard for me to like say, yeah, these guys are reporting on all these defaults and all this stuff is happening. I like to see it firsthand. I would like to go and talk to people who are experiencing this, and then that's like kind of confirming some of the other stuff that I see within the media. As far as repos, I can imagine that a lot of people are probably going to start letting their car go if they bought like some expensive big truck that gets like really terrible gas mileage. I mean, just like unloading that thing to get it out from underneath your burden. I could see where people would do that, especially when it comes to being in the depths of a recession. That would be like really where you're looking to pick up those cars for cheap. Lord, what did you have to say? Lord Humongous says 30-year mortgages is already at 5.7 and rising. Yeah, here in Oregon, they're at like 6.3. Like, I mean, I found no other place that had mortgages as high as they were. Freddie and I, my son Freddie, we were looking at the mortgage rates, or I guess the average mortgage rates per state, and I was like, we could not find one that was any higher than what they were in Oregon at 6.3. Yeah, I got a quote at 5.4. Greetings from Germany. So what does that mean, like, when I find that? Like, that was curious about it. Is it that like the average rate that's going in Oregon, or is it just like the mortgages in Oregon are expensive? What does that mean? Like, I'm not like some mortgage lender guy who understands how these things are determined like that. I like to caress my coins. Yeah. Let's see. What coin do I have on me right now? I carry coins with me. I'll show you. What I got? Oh, I got this one from my tinfoil hat. I haven't seen him comment in a while, but this one, he actually handed this one to me. He came into the Workers Tavern one day when I was calling bingo, and it's pretty cool. It's an old Morgan, silver Morgan from 1921. But I like that one. It's a pretty cool coin. Okay, if you can find a house at 200,000, yeah. Well, my buddy in Missouri found a house for like, it was cheap. It was like $35,000 or some ridiculous thing. It wasn't a great house, but I mean, you could totally live in it. I mean, easy. All right. You're awesome, man. Thanks for talking to us. Yeah, well, thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. 395 of you, all these wonderful, generous super chats, all the awesome questions and comments. I mean, you guys are just as cool, Not saying I'm cool or anything. I mean, but imagine, let's see. Imagine if you have an ARM loan that's going to be interesting. Yeah, now that was something that Matthew and I were talking about, the lumberjack landlord. When he gets done editing his video, I'll put a link. I'll find the link for it, and I will share it with you guys. But he was mentioning that I guess there's some new issues with this ARM loan that he was talking about, where the adjusting of the rate, whatever it adjusts to, like that adjustable rate mortgage after, whatever the 5 years or whatever it is, that adjusted rate, you have to qualify for that before you can get the loan. So you are already like pre-qualified for that, from what I understand. And so I'd imagine that, like, even if it does adjust, it might be a burden on a lot of people, especially if they if they're not prepared for that timing. But they've already been like kind of pre-approved for that particular situation. Again, I don't know if that's going to cause a bunch of waiver defaults or what. You don't want adjustable rate anything, instant wipeout. All right, I paid $12,000 for a disused church 10 years ago and have basically been camping in it. Paid off all my debts with the rent savings. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And having a big old church, that might be neat. You'd have like just giant kitchen, huh? Like, is it one with a kitchen in it? That would be like really cool. All right, you can find houses in Missouri for $15,000 for a reason. Yeah, I kind of figured as much. I didn't really want to like. I wouldn't. I mean, I've never really been to Missouri, but I don't really have any desire to go there either. So, great video with Matt the Lumberjack. Amazing collab. Yeah, the dude is so cool. I mean, he's one of the nicest guys out there. And you know, when you hear him talk about his tenants, you know he truly cares about them. I mean, obviously you're in business to make money, and you don't, own rental properties so that you can just be a super nice guy to everybody. I mean, you're in it to make money. That's why you do it. But he cares. I mean, he cares enough that, increasing the rent, he doesn't do as much as he possibly can. He takes in consideration that these people have jobs and lives and kids and stuff like that. And very few people do that. Like I've heard other property owners who talk about, like, these people couldn't afford the rent increase and they had to leave or something like that. And he goes, they'll find something out there. And I'm like, people who say that really have no clue of how difficult it is to try and make ends meet or try to find another place to live when you have nothing. They have no clue of how hard that is. And to hear somebody say that, it just goes to show that they really are clueless about their tenants, or the people who don't have wealth or money or means or anything like that. It was very irritating hearing people say that. All right, let's see here. Big kitchen, pretty rough, remodeling upcoming. Yeah, but that still is pretty cool. I mean, like, I think that would be a pretty neat house to live in. Especially if you could, spend some time doing the upgrades and remodels and making it cool. There are good reasons to get adjustable rate loans if you have money to get ARM, the adjustable rate mortgage, and if rates go up, pay off with cash. If rates go down, refinance. The neighbor's house across the street cost $100,000 more this year from last year. I can't imagine anyone paying that. I feel sorry for them. Yeah, and see, that's like the thing. Like, I mean, I've been in my house for like 7 months, and I kid you not, it's like up $70,000 or something like that. Of course, a lot of you don't trust the ZELLE estimate, and I don't really have anything to go off. I didn't have somebody actually come out and do an appraisal, but just going off the ZELLE estimate, it's just like unreasonably high. All right, what business would you start up in the coming years? Well, I guess that would really depend on where you're at. But I could tell you right now, like in Astoria, they have nobody here really doing any kind of property maintenance for the most part. I mean, there are a few guys doing it, but I have so many people who come to me saying they cannot find anybody to do any kind of minor work. And I felt really bad for this lady who lives across the river over, because, Washington isn't nearly as populated as it is over here in Astoria. And if you go upriver a little ways, there's some pretty small towns up there. Well, she bought this cute little house that she loved, but it's just her, and she doesn't know anybody, and she has this broken window. And she goes, I can't even get anybody to come out and look at this thing. Like, what am I going to do, And I don't know what she did. I think she finally paid a lot of money to have somebody come from like Portland or something like that to come down and fix this window for her. But having, like, you got to kind of look at your area and see what kind of businesses might be available to that particular area. And right now, I mean, I had a couple say they don't, like, they were an old couple, like, and he was like, the damn smoke detector needs the battery changed, and I can't get up on this ladder. Like, the two of them just physically were too scared to climb up this ladder because they thought that if they, because if they slip and fall, they're dead. So they were just too scared to even climb up a ladder to change a smoke detector battery. And so it's just like, holy moly, there is such a need for this around here. It's turning into a retirement community, and all the working class people are kind of leaving the area. It doesn't leave a whole lot of, a lot of people to do that kind of work. And so, I don't know. Anyway. How do you get my 20-year-old son interested in investing? Um, I don't know. Like, I mean, my little boy Freddie, he's interested in investing, and I showed him what a compound calculator. I showed him like on his phone. Like he has a phone that he plays with. And I showed him, I was just like, here's a compounding interest calculator. Punch in there, $100 at 10%, and then put another $10 in there every month and see how much money you have. And he'll come back to me, Dad, look how much money this would be, And so I'm putting that impression into his mind that, whatever you put your money towards, make sure you get an interest rate towards it. And he's getting it. I mean, he isn't quite exactly like, he kind of, he fills in the blanks a lot, so it's just like sometimes I'm like, okay, kid, let's bring this back a little bit, because, he'll start, talking about like, well, you know, I guess if I had $1,000 and, I put 10% towards it, I could buy a house when I graduate, right? And I was just like, well, you're gonna need more than $1,000 into it. And he was just like, oh, I do, And it's just like, yeah, like look at your calculator again, kid. Like, figure it out. So he's still like, he knows that you need to put money towards it and that it will gain an interest and that you should do it, but he's not quite sure on like how much and how often. That part he's still trying to figure out, but he's getting better. He's only 8. Let's see here. I didn't have any extra money at 20 to invest. I was barely making rent, petrol, food, etc. Yeah. You know what I found? Is that if you start investing, no matter how little it is, even if it's $10 a month, subconsciously, you will end up investing more. Like your subconscious will pick it up knowing that you want to put more money towards it, and things that you typically would buy for a convenience or a luxury, like a cup of coffee, you won't do it, and you'll hold on to that money because you want to put it towards your investments. Same thing, like, okay, here's another thing. If you want to get into investing and you're in debt, start paying off your debts. There is no better return on your money than to be out of debt, to get out of debt. And once you get into that mindset of getting out of debt, all of a sudden you're out of debt one day. Boom, now what? Well, now you have all this money to invest with. So that's a good way to invest, is just to pay off your debts. Like I remember listening to an investor say that, because I was like, I got to figure out how to get out of debt, and I'm going to invest some money and become super wealthy and be out of debt. And that's what he said. It was just like, if you're going to invest into anything, invest into getting out of debt, because the return that you have to have has to be above the interest rate that you're paying on your debts. So you might as well just pay your debts, and that way you don't have the interest rate that you have to pay back. All right. Home prices will drop probably more than 30%, and then prices will go way up. Now, why? Why would they drop 30%? Is it going to be an inventory rise, or is it going to be like defaulting loans? Is it going to be the mortgage-backed securities that are causing like, the interest rates to be sky high because there's no buyer of mortgage-backed securities and they are toxic assets or something? Like, these things don't quite exist like they once did. The qualified buyers who are buying houses are like the most qualified ones. And from what I understand, like 30% of homes that are sold today are sold to all cash buyers. They don't even have a loan to default on. So it just kind of really makes me wonder what would cause a 30% downturn. Not saying it won't happen. I mean, I'm not saying that at all. It could very well happen. I mean, anything could happen, but I need to hear the reasons for it. And other than people saying, it's going to be like 2008 again. And it was like, no, why? Where's the toxic assets? Where's the irrational exuberance? Where's all the, people who are buying with ninja loans and stuff like that? That's not existent right now. So we need that reason. I mean, let's find it. I mean, if we can find it, let's talk about it, Yeah, okay, why is Elon Musk rat trying to back out of his $44 billion Twitter con job then? I don't know about that one. I mean, I was kind of wondering why he was trying to buy Twitter in the first place. All right, by the way, your channel has really helped me. Thank you. I wanted to mention that there are farmers online talking about food price skyrocketing. They are saying chicken feed is up 400%. $12 a dozen. Um, I, okay, I don't know about that one. And that seems 400, not 400%, but 400 times. That seems a little far out there. I would like to see some evidence of that one. Coffee that late in the day? Yeah, I was kind of questioning it myself. It's only half full. It's left over from this afternoon, you know. And since I'm a caffeine addict, I can't help but to drink coffee all day. Tesla is a horrible company. UE, you're right on housing. Market fundamentals are solid. It's not 2008. Yeah, and again, like, I mean, I want to make it clear, like, I'm not saying house prices won't plummet. Like, they very well could. I mean, it's happened before in the past, and there's no reason to think that it can't happen again in the future. But we need to find those reasons. Like, we have to know, I mean, at least be exposed to something out there that's going to say it. I mean, it could be just massive job losses, right? I mean, you know, if they say the Fed is like missed the mark behind the curve, they could take interest rates too high. Like, some people were saying that they need to take the Fed funds rate all the way up to 5%. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen that high. That's way above neutral rate. That would be so, like, restricting to the economy and loans and debts out there that, yeah, I could see like massive amounts of layoffs happening because of something like that. I don't feel that that's what's going to happen. Like, I honestly think that the Federal Reserve is going to try to get their Fed funds up to neutral, maybe a little bit above that. We don't know exactly where neutral is. Some people say we're already at neutral rate. Other people say it's somewhere around 2.5%. We're going to find out more about it as it happens. I do know that the impact to the economy from the Fed lifting of their Fed funds rate doesn't happen for 6 months to a year down the road. But it has an immediate impact on the markets, and that forward guidance, that job owning or the credible threat, it has the same effect on the markets as if they had raised the rates. And you can just see that going on with the U.S. Treasuries and, you know, how much forward guidance and job owning and credible threats they do to try and lift the market's perception of interest rates or what they think that the Federal Reserve is going to do, and forcing those interest rates up. That's still questionable on how far they push that. I mean, if they came out and said, we're going to lift interest rates 1.5% on the next one, you know what would happen to the markets? Like, if they said we're looking at a 1.5% interest rate hike on the Fed funds, that would just flip the markets out. They would just be like, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what would happen from something like that. Even at the 0.75% rate hike, that's like pretty extreme, and you can see it's already starting to cause the yield curve to invert because people are pretty sure that's going to be a recession coming into the future. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, just like inflation is. I mean, so is deflation and interest rate hikes. You know, the Fed has barely done anything at all. You know, I mean, other than a lot of talk. You know, even the unwinding of the balance sheet really hasn't happened that much. All right. Going on here. I'm not talking about SpaceX, another failure. I'm talking about Tesla. Lord Humongous is all over it today. Okay, let's see here. I know a girl who drinks a Mountain Dew right before bed. Lots of laughs. I don't know how she does it. You know, it's kind of funny. People who have like hyperactivity, like they have this hyper, I don't know, attention deficit and just this hyperness to them. Drinking coffee can crash them. Like, it'll knock you down. And I remember, like, a buddy of mine would like, they had him on all the stuff, like all the crappy pills and things. And when he got to be a teenager, it was just like he just gave that stuff up. And he would drink a Mountain Dew in the morning before his class, and he seemed fine. Like, I think the caffeine like chilled him out. Like, it was, you know, because that's what they do. They give like kids with hyperactivity, they give them speed, right? Well, I think that Mountain Dew in the morning was all that he needed to just chill out, you know, and he would just be fairly normal. He wouldn't be all, you know, wound up. All right. How long do you think it's going to be before they can't hide how bad it's getting or gotten? I don't know. It's, I mean, it seems pretty bad now. I mean, But I don't know. I don't literally look at things like as far as a good or bad. I mean, it's just more of the situation that you're in. It's going to be bad for people who have a lot of debts and then have a job that they get laid off from. That's who it's going to be really bad for. But if you have a decent savings or you have a secure job, I mean, what do you have to worry about? Like you don't. You actually are going to benefit from being in a recession, because if you have your job and you're doing all right, then you get to take advantage of that. The people who are going to suffer are people who have high debts and lose their job. That's the people who are going to suffer the most from it. And people who aren't prepared for the food increases, the price of food going up. All right, what do you think lumber prices will look like around the end of 2022? I would like to get a little closer to the end of summer before I start making that kind of call. The prices, I feel, are probably going to remain fairly low. Like when I say low, I'm talking about the new low, not the previous low of like 400 per thousand, but say somewhere between the 6 and 800 per thousand. I think that's going to continue to the end of summer, and then at the end of summer we might see a spike in prices then. And at that point, I don't think it's going to be like anything extreme to like even say the 1,200 per thousand. I can't imagine that, but I could see maybe over 8 to 1,000. And I think a lot of that has to do with the flushing out of all the lumber that's clogging the system right now. And if you have mill curtailments taking place here over the next few months, then that's going to start leaving a gap in production, which is kind of happening now because of the bottlenecking that's happening. So once that gap in production starts to really impact the inventory levels, then you can see the prices really moving up. I don't know how long that's going to take. It really depends on how much there is as far as demand from now until then. There's not a lot of retail demand happening out there. I mean, past projects of building decks and fences and chicken coops and garages, all that stuff has happened during the pandemic. So past projects and future projects got pulled in during that time. And now it's just really about like new home construction, remodeling, and not a lot of that's happening. The renovations and stuff. I mean, there is some of it, but not like it once was. Not like during the pandemic. Yeah. All right. Some think housing is going down because Wall Street firms are buying in speculative markets, and when depreciate because of unemployment, that could cause a shock. But who knows? Yeah. I mean, it's a possibility, but then that's like it's only like a possible scenario. We don't even know how bad unemployment's going to get. I mean, right now you have 2 jobs for every 1 person looking for them, and so you can have a lot of layoffs right now and still not have like unemployment rising significantly. That's really what it would take, for people to start foreclosing on their homes and stuff. And then at that point, like how much demand for houses are still going to be, taking place right then. With low inventory and still a high demand, if there's a lot of layoffs and those people go to another job and the unemployment doesn't rise, where's that going to be? Like, where are we going to be as far as people being able to make their payments? They're probably still going to be able to do it. Yeah. Not saying it's not going to happen again. I don't know. Yeah. If banks crash, as many people are predicting, then savings will be gone. We have already lost a big chunk of our very small nest egg for retirement. Yeah, but okay, so let's say banks crash. Like, say the bank that you have your money crash. Okay, so it's FDIC insured, right? Most banks are. Well, okay, so it would take a significant number of banks to crash all at once for you to lose your savings. So don't be like, don't just like leave your money there. Like, be aware of it. If you start seeing banks falling one right after the other, go and get your money out. They won't let you take it all out at once. Start spending it on stuff, and start buying gold and silver or something like that. Holy crap, did I just get another super chat up there? Oh my goodness. Holy moly, Joe. Thank you very much. $133. I hope you had a great day. in the supply and demand aspect, we would, or where would you rate yourself? Are you in demand? I guess for my perspective, or for the position that I hold at the job that I work at, because I do sales, and as long as I believe in the product, I can sell anything. I am good at doing sales. I've been doing it a long time. And so as long as like I truly believe in the product, I'm good at it. Like, I am good at closing the sale. I can get money right now. It's amazing. People will come in, especially when it comes to like composite decking. Like, I am really good at selling that stuff. I am so good at it. And like, I had a couple come in and they were like, I've never heard of this particular brand, right? They've only heard of one brand, the one that everybody knows as far as composite decking. And I'm like, well, these guys are very comparable, and they were like, how are they compared in price? And I was just like, well, everybody has their price levels. And then we start talking that over. And they're like kind of questioning it, and I could see they're like humming and hawing. I was just like, I just started asking them. It was just like, so have you looked at other deckings in the past? If there was a decking right here that you really liked out of all these samples, which one would it be? Next thing you know, they have it in their hand, and I give them a nail. I'm like, here, do the scratch test on this. Go do that on some other the deckings that you find out there. You're going to find that this particular decking holds up really well. So you imagine the dog and the running snails over the top of it. They're playing on the deck. You got the kids running their toys all over the thing. You got the patio furniture and the barbecue. Are you looking for something that's durable, or are you looking for something that's just like maintenance free? Is this going to be like the deck that you're going to be like spending a lot of time on and entertaining on it, or is it going to be like the back steps and you're just tired of replacing them because they're rotting? That's the type of questions that you ask, and next thing you know, you got the sale. You know what, guys? I think I'm losing power here. Well, I got 18%. We'll hang out for, say, another 15 minutes. How's that sound? Thank you very much, too, Joe. That is just an incredibly generous super chat. Did I answer your question, or is it the information that I have in high demand? Because I feel that's probably in pretty high demand, too. And it's not necessarily the information. I think it's just the breaking down and having the conversation and then trying to bring in the different concepts and ideas. And really, it's not me, it's more of you guys, right? It's more of the chat and the communication that we have and the conversations that we have. That's probably more of the gold of this channel. I mean, I've said it before, so. Is it 100% certain that the Fed has to destroy demand to stop inflation, meaning the unemployment rate or labor participation rate has to go up? Layoffs, defaults, retirees back to work? Is it 100% certain that the Fed has to destroy demand to stop inflation? No. You could stop inflation by getting government out of the way of entrepreneurs. Okay? If there's plenty of stuff, there's still stuff stacked up at the ports, right? There's still like tons of like congestion taking place with the containers that are stacked up there. There's still issues with trucking, like especially in California where they, have all these regulations, and it just like prevents truckers from just coming in there and working with their old trucks and stuff. So there's a lot of things that government could do of just getting out of the way, right? Just simply just step away from it and just let the entrepreneurs come in there and take care of business, because there is no better way to take care of business than to let the people who do business, right? The moment the government steps in and starts saying, no, we got to regulate this and do all that and take the free market out of it, that's when you start having some real issues with it. And of course, the people who aren't aware of free market capitalism or think that free market capitalism is a joke, those are the people who end up like causing the problem, right? Because they want government to do that kind of thing. They want them to restrict the power hungry, greedy capitalist out there who are the ones who are providing cheaper, more efficient, better products to them. I mean, I just don't understand how people just don't get that. There is no better way to deliver quality products at the cheapest price to the people than with free market capitalism. It is the only way of going about it. Everything else will cost more, and you'll get less quality out of it. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. Hey, thank you very much. Ghost Alone for the $9.99 super sticker. Or I guess it was just the prayer thing or the thank you thing. Very much thank you. Getting government out of the way. Amen. Yeah, right? I mean, that's one of the things, like, people were like, well, what should we do? Like, there isn't anything you can do, right? I mean, I can't go and like tell, the government. It was just like, hey, you know what your problem is? You're all dumbasses, right? You need to start getting out of the way of things. Well, government, that means that you don't need them, right? And that's the last thing that they're going to do is say, hey, maybe we should just quit, and that's not going to happen. And so, like, there is no fixing it. The only thing you can do is just try to operate within that system and to try and understand what is happening and to navigate yourself through it as best you can. But yeah, there is no fixing anything. Not that I know of, anyhow. Thank you very much, Philip, for the $5. Thanks for chatting with us. I always appreciate your perspective. Well, I appreciate you guys being here, and thank you very much for the $5 super chat. That's very kind of you. Let's see here. All needed in functional society. Wayne? All needed. It's all stored inside. Okay, I'm not sure what you guys are talking about. Let me go up here a little bit. Okay, there is new solar panel tech that uses zero silver out of Australia called Sunbeam Tech. They use copper only and said will replace all silver used in solar cells by 2024, meaning another 110. See, now copper is a really good metal for transferring energy and all that, but there is no better conductor of electricity than silver. So I can't imagine the copper. I mean, I can see copper replacing it because they've gotten really good at it, and it makes the solar panels cheaper because, obviously silver is more expensive than copper. But if they can make copper that efficient in a solar panel, can you imagine what they could do with silver in it? I mean, if they have that kind of technology, they might as well just use the silver and make that solar panel incredibly efficient. So again, I think it would fall back to silver. Not saying that these copper panels or whatever the copper made ones aren't good, and they'd probably be awesome, but I just like kind of think about that. It was just like, geez, if you can do it out of copper, what would it be like if you did it out of silver? It'd be even better. Or maybe I just don't understand the technology since I'm just kind of assuming on all that. All right, Shakamula, thank you very much for the 99 cents on the super chat. Very appreciative. 110 million ounces of silver on the market. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, okay, well, let's kind of take that into consideration a little bit, because I've always kind of been under this idea that if everybody decided that they were going to go out and just get 1 or 2 ounces of silver, like if every single person in the United States, like every man, woman, and child in the United States tried to get just 2 ounces of silver, they would eat up the entire world production of silver. Well, pretty close to it. And then you think like Canada, Mexico, Europe, Russia, China, all these other places, if you can imagine them trying to get a hold of just 2 ounces of silver, there simply just wouldn't be enough. So yeah, this copper like replacement of silver inside of these solar panels might bring in an additional 110 from that particular theory, but would it really add that much to it if people all of a sudden started getting into silver at the same time? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'd imagine that silver is going to be in high demand going into the future with all the automation of everything, the electric vehicles, the solar panels, all that stuff. I mean, it just seems to me that silver is going to be in a high demand. And then like a lot of the medical uses that are coming to it, and then just people becoming more aware of having something tangible in their hands. I don't know. Like, I just can't see silver, like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's really going to change much. People buy paper gold and silver from banks using greenback. Yeah, they do. Did I miss another one up there? Nope, I guess I didn't. Okay, you believe in any of the altcoins in crypto? No. but I'm not saying, like, I do own some altcoins. I own quite a few of them, but they're more of like just speculative like purchases. I just, I put $50 towards, certain ones. Um, there's one that I found a real world case for. Like, this old man came to me and was just like, "Hey man, I got cryptocurrencies," and I'm like, "Where did you get cryptos from, dude? You're not into this." And he was like, "Yeah, I bought some internet service, and they said that we have this airdrop on this wallet, and I don't even know anything about it." And I'm like, "Well, what is it?" And he says, "Well, it's called Uniswap." And I'm like, "Okay, well, if you ended up with Uniswap by accident, then I'm gonna go and buy some." And that was actually a pretty decent purchase. Like, even during this whole, routing out of, dropping in prices and stuff, from the time that I purchased that Uniswap to right now, I'm still up like, I don't know, well over 100% on it. I didn't do much. I only bought, well, I did a $50 purchase, and then a few weeks later I did another $50 purchase. So it wasn't like I bought a lot of it, but that's not the point of it. It's the point is, like, it stayed up above, like, the price that I purchased it at. So I mean, Uniswap is one. I'm not trying to like promote that by any means. Go make your own decision on that stuff. Do your own research. I don't know anything about Uniswap. The only reason why I bought it is because that old man had it. So that, and it worked out pretty well for me. All right, guys. I'm gonna give it like another 5 or 10 minutes here. Do you think the Fed will pivot, or are they going to continue hiking? Is Powell going to chicken out from the bad day on the stock market? Let's I'm not defending Jerome Powell, but I just want to make it clear that dude does not make decisions, okay? The FOMC does, the Federal Open Market Committee. They're the ones who are the decision makers of the monetary policy. Jerome Powell is just the person who is just communicating the information. He does not make decisions. And so when people like want to point the finger at Jerome Powell and saying that dude did it, that's the jerk, you're missing it, right? Don't do that, because you're blaming the wrong person. You're blaming the messenger. Look at the FOMC. They're the ones you should be pointing the finger at. They're the ones who are the problem. That's the issue right there. So back to the question, do I think that the FOMC might reverse or do something like that, chicken out? I don't know. Like, I think they're going to try and get the Fed funds level up to the neutral rate, which I'm assuming is going to be somewhere around 2.5%. They're going to try and get a little bit more ammo back after that. I think as long as the unemployment rate doesn't just explode, like if they start causing, like, I'm not going to say they, the whatever, but if the unemployment, or I'm sorry, if the layoffs start becoming more prevalent, and you start seeing more unemployment, that's part of their dual mandate, is to keep low and stable prices and full employment. So if you start having like unemployment running away, like businesses are shutting down and people are just going into this, massive unemployment lines, and nobody's getting their unemployment, and or having difficulties getting their unemployment and paying their bills and stuff like that, well then yeah, we could see the Federal Reserve, change positions on it. But so long as the unemployment stays fairly low and the inflation expectation is still high, then they're going to keep running that interest rate up as long as they can to try and get that ammo back. They really want to get the Fed funds back up to 5%. Like, that would be like their ultimate wet dream. If they could get up to 5%, because then they would be like, "Oh, yes, nice. We will be able to tackle the next recession, and we won't have to even do much. We just have to drop the Fed funds back down to, zero, and then fire up some quantitative easing and convince everybody that there's going to be inflation and things will be fine," right? That's like, I'm not trying to say that that's the case. I'm just saying that's what the Federal Reserve would be thinking. But as far as chickening out, I mean, I don't think that's like necessarily in their game. Like, they're going to look at the unemployment. If the unemployment rises too much, then they'll have issues. But if they can keep unemployment low, they probably don't even care about the prices of anything, and get that Fed funds up to 5%, that would just be like, they would just be ecstatic about that. But I doubt it'll get there. It's probably just going to get a little over the 2.5%, or whatever is deemed neutral, if they can figure that out. All right. Let's see here. Thanks for the response, and congratulations on the 100K subscribers. Yeah, man. Thank you very much. It's absolutely incredible, man, hitting that 100K. I mean, I never thought this channel would ever take off, and let alone have 100 subscribers or 1,000 subscribers, let alone 100,000 subscribers. And it was pretty cool because the guy came into the store today while I was working. I hope he's watching. Hey Adam, what's happening? But his name is Adam, and as soon as he saw me, like as soon as we made eye contact, I was just like, hey man, can I help you? He's like, he points at me, and I'm like, all right man, this is a fan right here, I know it. And sure enough, it was. He came into the store looking for zip ties, and I shook his hand and gave him a business card, and thanked him for watching the show and stuff. But he doesn't live around here. He just happened to be in Astoria today and popped into the lumber yard and got to shake my hand, or I got to shake his hand, more like it. So that was pretty cool. All right. Hey, wow, look at all these super chats that popped up. Okay, I got to answer these things before I go. Hey, UE, get yourself another coffee. Besides paying off debt, if you found 10K on the ground right now, what would you do with it? To be honest with you, man, I'd probably hold on to 10K. At least for the next few months, because I feel that there's going to be some serious buying opportunities going into the future. If you're insisting on getting rid of it, like you were like, no man, I don't want this 10K, I don't want the cash, I want to invest it or put it somewhere. That's going to be difficult, because I feel that there's not everything, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to go down. So I would, if you're not prepared, like with canning supplies and food and off-grid power and stuff like that, maybe invest in that kind of stuff. I mean, you might be able to get that cheaper in the future, but having that available to you is better than not having it. So that might be one way to invest 10K. But if you want something that's more of like the investing assets or something, gold miners, I think gold mining is probably going to be a fairly decent thing to get into. Just because I feel that like gold and silver really have like very little downside risk to it right now. So the gold miners are probably a good position to get into. But again, during a recession, I think those would go down too, because during a recession, everybody wants to get into cash. That's what they're trying to get a hold of. And stocks are included in that. And so are precious metals. So, and crypto and everything else. So cash is probably the better position to be in, at least for the next couple of months. Unless, like I said, unless you get into prepping stuff or whatever. The Chemical Shed, thank you for the $4.99, man. Very much appreciate it. Let's see here. Hi, Simon. Thanks for the content. Would you agree that sobriety is a good tool in the fight to pay off debt and establish financial security? I am not. I used to hold a lot of resent after I quit drinking, and I had to let that stuff go. And I don't blame anybody for consuming alcohol. If that is something that they have chosen to do with their life, or have part of their life, or just enjoy at times in their life, that's cool. That's up to you to decide for yourself, and I have no problem with that at all. I mean, at all. But I have dumped so much money into alcohol that if I had that money back right now, I would be so wealthy. Like, I don't even know how many. I mean, it was 20 something years worth of drinking at the bar and dumping money like every night into beer and shots and food and everything else that goes along with it, and buying drinks for other people and just having a good time. When I was doing construction and I was framing, I mean, here I was in my early 30s. I was really fit, making a lot of money, and every night I would just pound the beers all night long, and yeah, that was a lot of money wasted. I mean, just really just pissed away, seriously, just literally, So yeah, and then also just the bad decision making, because once you consume that much alcohol on a regular basis, you end up having an alcohol based consciousness, kind of like my caffeine based consciousness is now. But that's really where you are, and you don't make good decisions, and fight with your family, and family turns their back on you because you don't straighten up. I mean, being sober has been the best 5 years of my life. And when you first quit, it sucks, because you sober up and you realize that man, life sucks. Like life sucks, you know, and you gotta make it better again. And when you couldn't make it better because you didn't know what to do about making it better, you just drank, because at least drinking you didn't have to deal with life anymore. But you know, when you sober up, you realize, man, this sucks. This is very depressing. And then you have to work through that stuff, you know. So the first couple of years of sobriety is not fun. I mean, it's like, it's difficult, it's hard to do it, and then once you kind of get through that stuff, well, then you start to enjoy things a little bit better. And you know, like I remember one time I heard somebody say, sober stands for son of a bitch, everything is real, right? And that's really the truth of the matter. Is like, you look out there and you're like, oh man, I used to cover all this up with alcohol. Everything is real and I have to deal with it. And then reality sets in and you start dealing with it. Next thing you know, you start making better decisions, and you have more money that you can enjoy your life with, and things get better from there. So, all right, let's move on. $40. Wow, thank you, Sidekick Cato, for the $40 super chat. Very nice. Entering hour 9 of my shift. Keep me awake till closing time. Glad to catch you live again. Thanks for doing the research and relaying the info, sorry. My hands are pretty full most of the time. Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. That is very nice of you. You know, and that's part of this channel's appeal, I think, is I try to bring you guys a lot of information. And again, like, you know, I just putting out the idea. I try to start the conversation. Sometimes I come up with stuff that's way out of left field. Like, people are like, dude, where did you even come up with that? You know, but it's a thought, right? And and I try to be as logical as I can about it, you know, but I try to bring in different perspectives. I mean, if you're listening to everybody saying the same thing, just hashing it out differently, then what's the point? I mean, you can find it with just a handful of YouTubers who are, you know, and get the same information. But my channel, I try to really bring stuff that is not being talked about, and maybe it is being talked about, but I don't know, because I don't listen to other YouTubers, because I don't want to sound like them. I want to be my own economist, like my own thoughts and my own stuff. And so that's what I try and do, is find things that are not the way that they appear to be, or try to come up with things that are not necessarily, you know, the way that they always appear to be. And I don't know, I think I do a pretty good job of it. So, and that's like I said, I think that's kind of the appeal of the channel. And then of course the comment section that comes from it is really where the best part of it is, because I mean, some people give me a hard time and other people agree, and that's a lot of fun. So, all right, Shakamula, thank you again for the $9.99. You guys are just so awesome here. I've been listening to all your videos for like 6 months now, always providing great content. You should have at least 500,000 subscribers. Best of wishes, brother. Well, I tell you what, man, I'm gonna keep doing this, and someday we might be up to 500,000. You know, like I said, I never thought that I would get to 100,000. So the day we do hit 500,000, I mean, it's gonna be another awesome day that I mean, I have a hard time seeing it, you know, but yeah, I hope so too, man. I mean, I hope we get there. If nothing else, it's gonna be that much more conversation that we get to have. So thank you very much. Man, you guys are just loading me up here. Okay, above my pay grade. Thank you for the $4.99. Very much appreciate that. Let's see here. Just started a new econ channel. Thanks to you and George. Check it out above my pay grade. Okay, so yes, please. There's 402 of you. Go over and give above my pay grade a check. You know, check him out. Show him some love on his channel. See what he has to say, and I'll go and check it out later myself. Thank you very much for that $4.99 too. Thank you. All right, I want the Toyota. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's my car. You know, what would I drive? I mean, I guess once I get the Camaro, I should. Yeah, I'm gonna get a Camaro someday. I'm just putting that in my head. You know, I don't know if it's gonna be next year or what, but you should consider buying an espresso machine. I recently bought a Philips 540 Latte Go, and I am impressed. I decided to stop paying Starbucks highway robbery prices. I have an espresso machine at home, and I use it. Actually, I don't have any coffee at home right now to make it up, but I have an espresso machine at home, and it's really good. I found that drinking straight espresso is actually, I mean, I don't know if it's just like a cleaner caffeine or something like that, but I don't necessarily feel as like jittery off of it. And maybe it's just because it's a smaller shot and I only do like the one shot every once in a while, or a couple of times in the morning or something like that. So maybe I'm just not getting over caffeinated on it, but I like the espresso. I like drinking that. And the strong, like I like that really strong cup too, that really strong flavor to it. All right. Okay, I'm gonna give it 6 more minutes here. That'll give us 2 hours. Let me see. Do I have any power left on here? I only got 6%, so I might even die before that. I won't die. The phone will die. I'm gonna be fine. All right. I don't know why buy coffee. Oh, I don't know why, but coffee wrecks my stomach. It's bad coffee that you're drinking. Go to a coffee roaster and let them know how you're, like, what's going on with when you drink coffee, the pain that you feel and stuff. There's certain blends of coffee, certain types of coffee that will be more acidic than others. And if you go and drink like, gosh, I can't remember some of the names of these coffees, but I was listening to somebody actually. You gotta understand, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and coffee is like a very big deal around here. Oh shoot, guys, I'm gonna lose power here. Okay, I'm just gonna finish this up real quick and go. But coffee is an incredibly big deal around here, and so if you're drinking coffee, like you have some cheap Folgers or something that you're drinking, get rid of that stuff. Go down to your local coffee roaster, or go find a coffee roaster who really knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing, and ask them about getting some coffee that's going to make your stomach feel not so queasy or painful after you drink it, because really it's probably the type of coffee that you're drinking. All right, guys, I would love to hang out here longer, but my phone is about ready to die. I can't even see my screen anymore. But thank you, guys, and thank you very much for all the generous super chats. You guys are just so awesome. I can't thank you enough for doing, for all the support and encouragement, and the congratulations on the 100K that you all say. It's just amazing. All right. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know. Oh, come on. I can't find my power. There we go.